Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel Code 369, and we are learning JavaScript algorithms and data structures, and this is a full stack development course. Today is class 57. So we are learning from freecodecamp website, and I have given link in the description box in order to access this website. Actually, this is a self-learning platform, and if you wish to learn by yourself, it's okay, and it is a good way, because self-learning is the best learning. And even if you want to watch my videos for clarification, do that also. Okay, anything can be fine. Okay, either of the choices is fine, but self-learning is the best way. Now, so far we have completed basic JavaScript and half of the ES6. Okay, so we have completed 15 of 29 exercises in the ES6. So we have to continue from this. Actually, this is very simple. Write concise object literal declarations using object shorthand property. Okay, so here what they have done is they have created a function and they have passed parameters of x and y, and what they return is an object. Okay, they return an object. Oh, so within the object they are defining x is x and y is y. Okay, but what they say here is, instead of writing x colon x and y colon y, if we just give like this, okay, just give x comma y, this will be considered as this. Okay, like this, x will be x and y will be y. That is what they are saying. So here you can read it. ES6 provides the syntactic sugar to eliminate the redundancy of having to write x colon x. You can simply write x once and it will be considered to x colon x. Okay, that is what they are saying. If you are simply writing x, it will be considered as x colon x, and if you are simply writing y, it will be considered as y colon y. So here we have to use this shorthand property. Okay, object shorthand property, object property shorthand, and we have to declare this. Okay, so what we have to do is just delete all these things. Okay, for example, this gender, this age, and this. Okay, give comma. So that's it. Name will be assigned with the value of name, and age will be assigned with the value of age, and gender will be assigned with the value of gender. Okay, that's it. Now let us see what happens. Give console.log of create person. Okay, create person function, and you will be seeing the name like this. For example, name is undefined, age is undefined, and gender is undefined. But if I give the value, for example, I am giving the name as Aaron and age as 23 and gender as male. Okay, so you will be seeing all the values. For example, you can see here, name is Aaron, age is 23, gender is male. That's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Next, write concise declarative functions with ES6. Okay, so normally in ES5 what we will be doing is, when we are assigning, okay, and especially this is inside of object. Okay, always remember it, this is especially inside of object. So inside the object, if we are assigning, okay, a function, if we are assigning function as a value to a property, let's say hello is a property, and if we are assigning function as the value to that property, we will be writing function keyword and bracket and the block. Okay, all these things we will be writing. But in ES6 what we can do is simply we can write the property name and we can give brackets. Okay, instead of writing the function keyword, okay, and colon. Instead of writing colon and function keyword, we can simply ignore them and we can write bracket alone. Okay, that itself is enough. So this will be considered as the function. Okay, so here also we have to do the same thing. So just remove this. Now this will be considered as a function. Okay, so here they have called the function. Okay, here they have called the function bicycle dot set gear of 3. So this is the function name. Okay, press Ctrl Enter. So use class syntax to define a constructor function. Okay, use class syntax to define a constructor function. So let us see it. ES6 provides a new syntax to create objects using the class keyword. So what we are going to do is we are going to create objects, and for that we are going to use keyword of class. Okay, and another thing is it should be noted that the class syntax is just syntax and not a full-fledged class-based implementation of an object-oriented paradigm. Okay, unlike in languages such as Java, Python, Ruby. So in Java, Python and all, we will be having object-oriented programming. So in that we will be having class. Okay, and it is not like that. That is what they are saying. In ES6 JavaScript, this class is not like that object-oriented programming which is implemented in Java, Python and Ruby. Okay. So in ES5 we usually define a constructor function and use the new keyword to instantiate an object. So this is ES5. Okay. Now in ES6 what we are going to do is the class syntax simply replaces the constructor function creation. So now we are going to create constructor function using the class keyword. So leave this ES5. Okay, this is not necessary. So let us focus on ES6 alone. Okay. So how to create a constructor function? So use the class keyword and you have to give the class name. Okay, actually this is constructor, so give the constructor name and have open curly brace, and then you have to give constructor and then you have to give the argument name. Okay, and then you will be using the this keyword. So that's it. So when you are calling this space shuttle class, you will be giving the argument of Jupiter. So, okay. It should be noted that the class keyword declares a new function. Okay. This is considered as a function here. Okay, constructor function to which a constructor is added. So we are using class keyword to create a function, okay, which will be using a constructor, okay, which will be adding a constructor. This constructor is invoked when new is called to create a new object. So this constructor will be invoked when new is called to create a new object. Okay. And one more thing is very important, and here what they are telling is when you are using constructor you have to use new. Okay, that is important. When you are using constructor function you have to use new keyword. Okay, that is important. And another important thing is upper camel case should be used by convention for ES6 class names. Okay, so the first letter should be starting with caps for ES6 classes. Okay, the constructor method is a special method for creating and initializing an object created with a class. So you will be learning more about in the object oriented programming section of the JavaScript algorithms and data structure certifications. Okay, so we will be learning more about the constructor in the object oriented programming. Now use the class keyword and write a constructor to create a vegetable class. Okay, so what you have to do is just like this syntax you are going to write class. Okay, so how to do it? You have to give class and you have to give vegetable class. Okay, then you have to use the curly brace just like here, and you have to have constructor and you have to pass an parameter and you have to give curly braces. And then here you can see the vegetable class allows you to create a vegetable object with a property name. So this will be having the property of name. Okay, that is the input which is given here, that gets passed to the constructor. Okay, so we have to pass this name inside the constructor. So how to do it? So we have to use this dot name equal to name. Okay, like this dot target planet equal to target planet. Okay, so this is the syntax. There will be a class keyword and you will be giving the class name and you will be having curly braces opened and you have to give constructor and you have to give property of that constructor. Okay, and you have to declare the value here. So if I have to give, if I have to assign the name, what I have to do is this dot name equal to name. Okay, that's it. So what will happen is when we are calling this function, okay, vegetable of carrot, what will be happening is name will be assigned with carrot and this dot name will be assigned with carrot. Okay, so this constructor will be having the property of name with the value of carrot. Okay, that's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now it is use getters and setter to control access to an object. Okay, you can obtain values from an object and set the value of a property within an object. So what you can do is you can obtain the value from the object and also you can set the value of an object using getter and setter. Okay, that's it. Getter functions are meant to simply return, get the value, okay, of an object's private variable to the user without user directly accessing the private variable. So what we are going to do is we are not going to access the private variable directly. Okay, so this is called a private variable. If it is having underscore, this is called as private variable. So instead of directly accessing this private variable, we will be using getter and setter functions. Okay, getter and setter methods, and we will be getting the value and also setting the value. That's it. So this is a normal class we have created, and this dot author will be assigned with the value of author, okay, which is an argument which is passed to the function, and we will be creating getter function and also setter function, okay, in order to get the value and also set the value. So for getter function we are giving function name as writer, and we will be giving code of return this dot author. So this will be returning the value of author, okay, and setter is nothing but we will be passing an argument to it, okay, and that argument will be updating the value of this dot author, okay. So let us see what happens here. And now what we have done is we are creating a variable here, and we will be assigning this class, okay, assigning this class to the variable, and also we will be calling the function, okay, we will be calling the class. Actually this class is nothing but a function, so we will be calling the function, okay, class function. So in order to call this, what we have to do is we have to give new keyword to call the class function, and we have to give the argument, okay, we have to pass the value. So we are passing the value of anonymous. So this author, okay, this author argument will be having the value of anonymous. Then what we are doing is we are displaying novel.writer, okay, novel.writer. So we are getting this, okay, we are using the getter function now. So this whole class will be assigned to the novel variable, okay. So this novel variable will be having the value of author, okay, and that author will be assigned with the value of anonymous. So when you are displaying novel.writer, the message which will be displayed is anonymous, okay. And then we are going to update the author variable, author property using setter, okay. So how to do it? We are giving novel.writer equal to new author, okay. Now what will be happening is the author variable will be assigned with, the author property will be assigned with a new value of new author, okay. And then I am printing the value of novel.writer, and now it has set to new author, okay. So that is what getter and setter is. Then we are going to and you can read all these things. Notice the syntax used to invoke the getter and setter, okay. They do not even look like functions. Getter and setters are important because they hide internal implementation details, okay. It is convention to precede the name of a private variable with an underscore. So already I told this. You have to declare a variable as a private variable by giving underscore. However, the practice itself does not make a variable private, okay. So the thing which is crazy here is, even if you are mentioning it as a private variable, this is not going to be a private variable at all, okay. Now also you can access this, okay. Now what we have to do is use the class keyword to create a thermostat class. Now we have to create a class, okay, and we have to give thermostat as the name of the class, and we have to create constructor, and we have to pass the value here, okay. And what they tell is the constructor accepts a Fahrenheit temperature. So what we are giving as argument parameter is Fahrenheit, okay. Fahrenheit, yeah, the spelling is correct. And we are going to set this Fahrenheit with, actually we have to use underscore. Actually underscore is also not necessary because they did not tell us this should be a private variable, okay. So remove this, and this should be in small letter, okay, because this is just a property. So give it in small letter Fahrenheit, and now this dot Fahrenheit is equal to Fahrenheit, okay, which will be given as an argument, okay, and it will be receiving the argument and the value will be set to this dot Fahrenheit, okay. Now we are going to declare getter and setter. So how to do it? So we have to give get and we have to give name for it. So here you can see in the class, create a getter to obtain the temperature in Celsius and a setter to set the temperature in Celsius, okay. So I am going to give temperature as the function name, and what I am going to do is I have to return and in this return what we have to insert is they have told here in the class create a getter to obtain the temperature in Celsius, okay. So we have to obtain the temperature in Celsius. So what we have to write this formula, okay, because actually we are receiving the input as Fahrenheit, so we have to write this formula. So how to write it? Give 5/9. So you can just copy, no, you can write it, okay. Give 5/9 and this should be inside bracket, okay, into, so you have to give asterisk and this is F minus 32. So F is nothing but Fahrenheit. So this dot Fahrenheit, and you should be writing that as Fahrenheit because it is inside the constructor. So whatever property you are writing inside the constructor should be with this, okay. It should be written with this dot Fahrenheit, and whenever it is accessed, it should be written as this dot Fahrenheit, okay. This dot Fahrenheit minus 32 and give semicolon. Then we have to create setter function. We give set, okay, and you have to give name, temperature, and actually this bracket, yeah, this is correct. And here you can see sorry, where it is, here you can see setter to set the temperature in Celsius, okay. So we will be setting the temperature with Celsius. So I am giving Celsius as the argument, okay. Now we have to set the temperature, okay. So there is formula given here, Fahrenheit equal to Celsius into 9.0, okay, this formula. So how to set? Again we have to give this dot Fahrenheit, okay, Fahrenheit and equal to this formula. So we have to give Celsius into 9.0 into 9.0 divided by 5, okay, plus 32. And close this. Okay. Now we have set it. So this is what getter and setter. Now press Ctrl Enter. And now we are going to create a module script. Okay, this is nothing but we have seen HTML. Okay, we have seen HTML classes. Now what we do not know is how to import JavaScript file into HTML. Okay, so that is what said in this lesson. So what they are telling here is add a script to the HTML document of type module and give it the source file of index.js. Okay, so you can see here, okay, the script tag. So just copy this, and in the body itself you can add the JavaScript. Okay, in the body element itself you can add the JavaScript. And here what does it mean? In the script we are giving type equal to module. Okay, then src source file is filename.js. So this src is nothing but the name of your JavaScript file. So if you are giving like this the file name, this JavaScript file will be imported inside the HTML. Okay, that's it. And what in the exercise they have said the file name should be index.js. So I am changing it. Okay, index.js. Press Ctrl Enter. Now what we are going to do is we are going to export. Use export to share a code block. Okay, so how to export? Imagine a file called mathfunctions.js. Okay, just imagine that contains several functions related to mathematical operations. One of them is stored in a variable. Okay, so one of the functions is stored in a variable. Add. Okay, one of the functions is stored in a variable called add that takes in two numbers and returns their sum. Okay, you want to use this function in several different JavaScript files. In order to share it with these other files, you first need to export it. So what they are telling is in one JavaScript file we will be creating a function. Okay, this add function which will be adding two numbers, and that is stored in a variable called const add. Okay, and in one file we will be creating this function, and we want to use this function in multiple files. Okay, other files, not in the same file, in other files we have to use it. So how to use it? We have to do export. Okay, so how to do that export? What you can do is just give export. Okay, and give the whole function. Okay, that's it. The above is a common way to export a single function, but you can achieve the same thing like this. So if it is a single function we can export like this, but another way is to export like this. Okay, just give export and inside the curly brace give the function name. Okay, I mean that variable name. And here you can see you can export multiple functions like this using by inserting inside the curly braces. Okay, so how to export? There are two string related functions in the editor. Export both of them using the method of your choice. Okay, so how can we export these two functions, uppercase string and the lowercase string? What you have to do is you have to give export, and inside the curly braces you have to give the function names. For example, uppercase string and lowercase string. Okay, that's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now we are seeing import. Okay, in the previous challenges we saw how to export. Now we have to import the functions which we have exported. Okay, so how to do it? So at the starting of the program itself we have to give import, and inside the curly braces we have to give the name of the functions which we have to import. So here what they have told is we have to use uppercase string and lowercase string functions. Okay, so we have to import uppercase string and lowercase string functions. Okay, uppercase string and lowercase string functions. Uppercase string, okay, and lowercase string. The function is, the spelling is correct, but now we have to give the file name from which it is imported. Okay, so give from, and we have to give the file name inside the double quotes, and we have to give dollar backslash, and then we have to give string functions.js. Okay, that is the function name, string underscore functions.js. Now these two functions will be imported to the present file from the file string functions.js. Okay, press Ctrl Enter. Now what we are going to do is use asterisk to import everything from a file. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to import everything from a file. Suppose you have a file and you wish to import all of its content into the current file. This can be done with the import asterisk as. Okay, so like this, if you are writing like this, from mathfunctions.js file you will be importing everything to the present file. Okay, so let us do it now. The code in this file requires the contents of the file string functions.js. So what we are going to do is we are going to import everything from the file string functions.js. So how to give? So we have to give import asterisk as my math module from, okay, from double quotes dot slash actually here math module should not be coming. Okay, so here what they have told is the above import statement will create an object called myMathModule. Okay, it will be creating an object called myMathModule. So this is just a variable name, you can name it anything. The object will contain all of the export from mathfunctions.js. So this is just an object name, so you can give any object name. Okay, and all the contents will be imported into that object. So what they have told us, we have to create the object called string functions. So I am giving the object name as string functions. Okay, and I have to give the file from which all of the contents are imported. So the file name is stringfunctions.js. So from stringfunctions.js file, all of the contents will be imported into the object called string functions. Okay, so that's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now we are going to see create an export fallback with export default. Okay, in the export lesson you learned about the syntax referred to a named export. This allowed you to This allowed you to make multiple functions and variable available for use in other files. There is another export syntax you need to know, known as export default. Usually you will use this syntax if only one value is being exported from a file. Okay. Usually you will use this syntax if only one value is being exported from a file. So you have to read this line, particular line, okay. So if you have to export only one function from a file, okay, by default you can give a file here, okay. You can give a function in the export default. So it will be exported, that's it. And here you can see this is a named function because the function is having a name. And in the second we can see the function is not having name. So what they are telling here is the first function is named and the second function is an anonymous function. Since export default is used to declare a fallback value for a module or file, you can only have one value by a default export in each module or file. Additionally, you cannot use export default with var, let or const. Okay. So what they are telling is in export default you can have only one function. Okay, you can export only one function. That is what they are telling. So the following function should be fallback value for the module. Please add the necessary code to do so. So we have to export this function as the export default, okay, as the default export file. So how to do it? So just what we have to do is we have to give export default before the function, okay. So this function by default this will be exported. And in the export default you should be having only one function. So you should not write any other function using export default. For example, here if you are writing export default again and you are writing a different function, so none of the two functions will be considered as the function which has to be imported, okay. So by default only one function has to be there, then only it can be imported. If you are giving two functions as export default, none of the two functions can be imported, okay. That's it. Delete this, press Ctrl Enter. Now we are going to import that default export, okay. So how to do it? Here you can see we are using import keyword and we are going to have add, okay. So in the following example, add is the default export of the math functions.js. So they are using add function name here, okay. But in our case, give the import name as subtract, okay. So subtract is the function which we are going to import by default. So how to import this? Give import subtract, okay, subtract, and then from, and inside the double quotes you have to give the file name from which it is imported. So mathfunctions.js is the file name, okay. So press Ctrl Enter. Now we are going to see create a JavaScript promise, okay. A promise in JavaScript is exactly what it sounds like, okay. So it is promising something. You use it to make a promise to do something. So what it says is, if we are using promise, it is saying that I will be doing it, okay. When the task completes, you either fulfill your promise or fail to do so, okay. Either you will be fulfilling your promise or you will be failing to do, okay, when the task completes. So promise is a constructor function, so you need to use the new keyword to create one. So promise is a constructor function, okay. So you have to use new keyword. It takes a function as its argument with two parameters, resolve and reject. So promise is a constructor function which will be having two arguments. I mean two parameters. One is resolve and another is reject. These are methods used to determine the outcome of promise. So either the promise will be resolved or the promise will be rejected, okay. So now what they are telling is we have to create a promise like this, okay. So create a new promise called make server request. So how to do it? Give const make server request, okay, make server request, and you have to add a new keyword and you have to give promise, okay. This is a method, actually constructor function. Promise is a constructor function, and you have to give two parameters. One is resolve and another one is reject. So give resolve and reject, okay. This will be taking these two things as the parameter and the function will be returning something, okay. So give empty curly braces. That's it. Press Ctrl Enter. Now what they are telling is complete a promise with resolve and reject, okay. Now we are going to complete the promise. Actually a promise has three states: pending, fulfilled and rejected. So there are three states in the promise. One is pending and another one is fulfilled and another one is rejected. The promise you created in the last challenge is forever stuck in the pending, okay, state, because you did not add a way to complete the promise. The resolve and reject parameters given to the promise argument are used to do this. So normally a promise will be in pending state, okay, and the resolve and reject parameters given to the promise argument are used to do this. So when it will be made as unpending based on resolve and reject parameters that we are giving, okay. Resolve is used when you want your promise to succeed and reject is used when you want it to fail, okay. So when we are using resolve, we will be succeeding the promise. When we are using reject, it will be the promise will be failed, okay. That's it. These are methods that take an argument like shown below. So let us see below, okay. Here what we have done is we have created a function, okay, constructor function, and stored it in a variable called myPromise. We have used a new keyword because this is a constructor function. Promise is a constructor function, and this promise constructor function will be taking two arguments. One is resolve and another one is reject, okay. And this is the execution block, and what they are telling is if they are using if else, and if that condition becomes true, okay, if that condition becomes true, the resolve method will be executed, okay, and it will be showing the message of promise was fulfilled. And if that condition was false, reject method will be executed and that will be showing the message of promise was rejected, okay. The example above uses strings for the argument to these functions, okay. Actually these are arguments, okay. Promise was fulfilled is an argument for resolve and promise was rejected was an argument for reject, okay. But it can be really anything, okay. But it can really be anything. Now what we are going to do is make the promise handle success and failure. Okay, we have to make the promise handle success and failure. If response from server is true, call the resolve method to successfully complete the promise. So you can see response from server. If this is true, what we have to do is we have to call the resolve method. Okay, so how to call the resolve method? You have to give resolve of and pass resolve a string with the value of we got the data. Okay, so we have to pass the value of we got the data. We got the data. Okay, if response from server is false, what we have to do is we have to use reject method here. Okay, the reject method will be executed and we have to show the message of data not received. Data not received. Okay, so why we are using promise? So using promise we can check whether the task is completed successfully or not. Okay, so if response from server is available, okay, if it becomes true, we can show the message we got the data. If it is not, we can show the message data not received. So finally we can understand whether the data is received or not. Okay, so for that only we are using promise. Press Ctrl Enter. Promise are most useful when you have a process that takes an unknown amount of time in your code. Okay, for example, often a server request. So when you are requesting something to the server, it will be taking some amount of time so to get the data. Okay, so when you make a server request, it takes some amount of time, and after it completes, you usually want to do something with the response from the server. This can be done by using the then method. Okay, so after getting the server request, after getting the data from the server, after requesting, you have to do some process. So for doing that process we can use then method. Okay, the then method is executed immediately after your promise is fulfilled with resolve. So here we can see resolve, we get the data. Okay, we got the data. When it is resolved, we will be showing the message we got the data. So we are going to do some operation after getting the data. So how to do it means we are going to use then. Okay, after getting the data from the server, okay, when this promise is resolved, we are going to do some operation. So in order to do that operation, we have to use then method. Okay, so what they have done here is they have given my promise dot then of they have created a function. Okay, result comes from the argument given to the resolve method. So this result, this argument is nothing but the argument which is given to the resolve method. Okay, add the then method to your promise. Now what we have to do is we have to add then method to our promise. So now we are going to add the then method. Okay, so how to add it? We have to give the promise name. So make server request is the promise, and we have to give dot and we have to give bracket, and inside this bracket we have to give a function. Okay, and that function will be getting an argument parameter. Okay, and that is result. And with result what we are going to do is log result to the console. We have to print the result, okay? So give console dot log of result, okay? So what we are doing is we have got the data, okay? We have got the data. So with this, what we are going to do is we are going to print the message of we got the data, okay? So this is just an argument. We are using this argument as the result here, okay? This argument will be considered as the value for this result parameter, okay? That's it. Now we have printed the message of we got the data. Press Ctrl Enter. Now what if the data was not received, okay? What if the reject was executed instead of resolve? Catch is the method used when your promise has been rejected, okay? In the previous challenge we saw when the promise was resolved, but now what we have to see is what we have to do when the promise is rejected, okay? So for that catch method is used. It is executed immediately after a promise reject method is called. So when the promise is resolved, we will be using then method, okay, to execute further. And when the promise is rejected, we will be using catch method, okay. Here is the syntax. We have to give the promise name and we have to use dot catch and we have to give a parameter here, okay. So error is the argument passed to the reject method. Okay, same like resolve method. In when resolve is executed, we will be giving this argument, this we got the data as the argument to the result, okay. But when the reject is executed, we will be taking this data not received as the argument to the error, okay, error parameter. So add the catch method to your promise now. So how to do it? Give the promise name and give dot catch and you have to give error as an parameter, and finally what they are telling is we have to show the message. So how to do it? Give console dot log of error, okay. So this error will be getting the value from the argument which is passed to the reject, okay. So that's it. Press Ctrl Enter. So far we have completed ES6 successfully, and next what we will be seeing is, just get out of this. So far we have completed 29 exercises of ES6. Then what we are going to see is regular expressions, okay, often referred to as regex or regexp, okay, regexp, okay. So we will be covering this in the next class, regular expressions. So I would like to conclude this session. So thank you for watching my videos, friends. Thank you for supporting me, and please do subscribe. Thank you for watching. We will be seeing in the next class. Thank you.